So I gave up all my degrees in 94.
You just burned the degrees.
What is the use? Why should I have it? The old temples, the mosques, the churches were built by people with PhDs in architecture.
No.
Then why are we so stuck up to this man-made certification on our walls? So my education destroyed me in many ways, right? Completely. I went to IIT because 300 million Indians did not write the exam. If you didn't get into IIT, you were not a good student. It also destroyed a lot of talent of a lot of people, I would say. I think Sundar was there, Shaurav is there, Arvind Kejriwal was there.
And did you have the chance to interact with him during your time?
In 5-10 seconds, I lost 17 friends. Why is 12th education in the US free? But in India, IIT is a chappa, not an engineer. As we get more educated, we get less useful for society. Is that the problem? That's it. Do you think any poor person has 5 years to waste? 5 farmers were my mentors who taught me everything I know today.
Walk me through your early 18 years of life. Where were you born?
Born technically in Bangalore, but brought up in Odisha, yeah.
And what was your family background? Help me understand, because first 18 years of life shapes you fundamentally, right? What were you thinking? How were you growing up? How was the days like before, pre-IIT?
No, I think it's a company town, Rourkela. My father was Install Authority of India Limited. So company town is very much Cosmo in many ways, right? I mean, even in the 80s and 90s where people from different parts of the country. So everybody goes to a couple of schools and all parents work in the same place. It's a very small town with X number of kids who are brought up for 18 years together. So you know everybody from nursery to your 12th grade in and out. You have the concept of religion, but you don't have the concept of division of religion. It was true in a very secular and Indian manner, I would say. Yeah.
And what was constructing that place like that?
That was one of India's first steel plant that was being built up. And so they brought in people from across the country in 1959. And the first set of steel plants, whether it was Bhilai, Bokaro, Rourkela, Jamshedpur, which was started. The industrialization of India. So that's when these company towns were set up, right?
And did it shape you in some fundamental level? The concept of religion being there, but the concept of division was not there. How was it in real life?
I think the reality hits you after you leave Rourkela, not when you are in Rourkela. So when there's a division, or people criticize, So never you criticize anything else, right? From which part of the country or part of the world you are in. You don't criticize anybody else, or you imbibe what other person's culture and food and religion is. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're not even taught about it. And that's the beauty. Moment you're taught, then it's an external intervention.
And how did IIT happen, sir?
IIT, again, I think if I had not gone to Rourkela, IIT would not have happened. In Rourkela, unfortunately, the academic pressure was, if you didn't get into IIT, you were not a good student.
Was that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think now I would say it's a bad thing because it also destroyed a lot of talent of a lot of people, I would say. People who were talented in art, people who were talented in any other stuff had to force to get into IIT. And go into IIT and do what? See, IIT is still a one exam wonder, right? You study one exam and then you get into IIT. What you learn in IIT is in the hostel, but does the education affect? I have a lot of doubts about it. So the question is, but what you learn in the hostel, how do you put in leadership? Yes. And so, but coming back to your earlier question, Rourkela was where when you're playing cricket, the batsman and the wicketkeeper are talking about problems of what will come in the next IIT. So I would say if you look at those days in the steel city of Rourkela, Jamshedpur, Bhilai, Bokaro, Durgapur, out of the 1,500 to 1,806 seats, at least 500 seats would come from
company towns.
Yes.
ऐसा क्यों? क्योंकि उनके पेरेंट्स भी पढ़े लिखे हैं?
No, it's a parent pressure. It was a peer pressure of IIT जा रहा, मैं भी IIT. The rank. It was more about not into getting IIT, but rank क्या है तेरा?
Competition.
What is your rank? And no coaching नहीं था. Rank. No competition of the health equals तेरे को क्यों नहीं मिल रहा? तू कैसा नहीं घुस पा रहा? अगर किसी को somebody didn't come in, so next year उसको boss you got to get in next year.
Interesting. And what happened in your IIT, sir?
I think IIT was a very different ball game where it opened up a lot of opportunities because somehow the hostel life was where you get an opportunity to do stuff that you wouldn't have done it. I mean, in a sense, you're forced to go into hockey even if you didn't play. You're forced into debates even if you didn't do. Forced into public speaking if you didn't have to. So I think IT was very much transformational from a personal hostel life. So I would say those are things I would have definitely.
Tell me your fondest memory of IIT days, sir.
You had something like if a particular hostel won a trophy like a cricket or a hockey, then you always had something called as a victory procession that actually goes from one hostel to another hostel saying that how you lost. And so I think those were memories, obviously. And the way I would say glad that time IITs were mixed, hostels were mixed between the years. I mean, you didn't, like our hostel had 50 first years, 50 second years, 50 third years, and 50 fourth years. So I know 3 years senior courses, 3 years junior. Plus I would know, because it's mixed, I would know what classes are taught in mechanical, chemical, electrical. So you're in touch with 3 plus and 3 minus, yeah.
Got it. But this UGC changed this because of some ragging rules in some.
Yeah, because I think the ragging became too much in terms of physical. But I would say also, so that led to a lot of people staying in the same hostel. But I would still go back to the olden days of where you are mixing ages, mixing, cross-cutting. So now you have relationships with people who are across the world, from different departments, different. So that makes a big difference in terms of networks. Yeah.
So you're just talking about Sundar Pichai sir being, roommate of Saurav sir. But who were most famous folks from your +3 and +?
I think Sundar was there, Saurav is there, Arvind Kejriwal was there.
From your batch?
No, he's 1 year senior to me.
And did you have the chance to interact with him during your time?
No, he was my roommate for 3 years. So we were together for 3 years.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of the IS officers, I would say, also are Vinay Kumar, who is today, last week he got appointed as the Indian ambassador to Russia.
Got it. So how did sustainability happen in your life? Whom did you learn sustainability from?
I think sustainability, solar was part of what I studied in IIT.
Your branch was?
Energy,
which is not there right now.
It's there in IIT Mumbai and other IITs. Unfortunately, it's not there because people joined the software sector, which was unfortunate. India needs a lot of energy thinkers. Sustainability, I would say, when I went to the US and had gone to the Dominican Republic a bit, then I had a friend who became a friend, Richard Hansen, who promoted solar in the 1980s.
And why did you went to US as a part of your...
Yeah, GRE, then just like a typical herd mentality of writing GRE and going, right? So, and studying solar. At that point of time, only 2 universities were offering solar. I think one of Michigan and one was UMass. So the professor was brilliant, who was a Cuban refugee in the US. So he asked me whether I had gone to see large solar. And then I had a chance to go to Dominican Republic where a friend of Richard Hansen was promoting small solar to small households. And then the concept of sustainability was not there. The word sustainability did not exist or social enterprise didn't exist at that point of time. I think then you realize that, okay, it's not about solar, it's not about it's about empowerment of individuals and how do you remove poverty. And so I think Dominican Republic completely changed the way I looked at stuff. And then I came back to India and Sri Lanka to look at what is it, because you come from a pampered background of a steel city and subsidized education in IIT, then a scholarship. Basically I'm a product of subsidy, right? In many ways. But when you go and so what does it mean? What does it mean to live without electricity? Why do people pay for something that they don't have money for? So is it all Excel-based thought process? Or that's emotions? How do we make our decisions generally? So, and that's when you started to look at what does it actually mean? How do you connect the dots? And slowly as you develop, and then you look at true form of development or true form of empowerment, sustainability is inbuilt. And that's why I would not use the word sustainability, or I would not use the word that's like secularism or not religion. It's because it should all be institutionalized in the thought process of what you do. That should be the way of life, right? By using a different word, we actually, like a quota system, right? Like when we say, oh, it's a women pilot, but we never say it's a pilot. Why do you say women pilot? In a sense, you are insulting the person. She has come on her own right. Oh, she's a woman CEO. Why? She's a CEO. We don't say, oh, that's a man CEO. Right? We need to create a platform that encourages every gender to apply for. The problem is the platform is not right. And whoever have come in at the top have come from their own merit and the struggles. And then we put a Chappa as a woman leader. I think this first set of friends of mine, I was lucky enough to get into the industry early. Because what yearly installation of solar, when I got into, today we do it in a day. So, and most of the people were the hippie era, who were not the tie suits, who truly believed in what sustainability, how do you look at, how do you way of life, how do you grow. And fortunate enough to have been mentored by many of these characters. Most of them are dead right now, but those other people, I would say, pushed the button.
We will talk about that platform, and you also mentioned the people that you mentored you, but you always say that you're a product of a subsidy, right? A lot of subsidies. When did you have this realization?
See, if you truly have to talk to somebody and want to learn from somebody, that somebody should either think that we are equals so that we can have a discussion so I can learn, or somebody should, without the arrogance of being superior, that I can learn from somebody, right? But the problem is, if I go to the rural areas, if I went to the rural areas during that time in Sri Lanka and India, because of the educational background I had, that English speaking, blah, etc., etc. And if I speak to the farmers, where farmers have infinite more knowledge than me, right, on anything they do, infinite more, he or she. But unfortunately, my paper degree made it me a hierarchy where they thought that I was more learned, putting me in a one step higher or 10 steps higher in a pedestal, leading to me learning nothing. So the biggest barrier for me was my education, which was stopping me from learning.
You can sit with them and talk to them.
But you talk to an auto rickshaw driver, he or she will keep telling you, sir. An auto rickshaw driver will never feel in an empowered manner to tell you or teach you. Will always say, हमको क्या सिखाना sir आप तो पढ़े लिखे हैं, right?
That biasness.
Biasness is very deeply because we confuse between intellectual poverty and financial poverty, right? We confuse that people who are financially not poor are financially poor or also intellectually poor.
And what's the difference between intellectual poverty and financial poverty? We all understand.
Yeah.
What's intellectual poverty?
Intellectual poverty is basically ability to understand, think, do stuff, right? It's smartness, intelligence, right? Farmers are brilliant. Street vendors are brilliant. But no, we believe usko kya pata. A head of an institution, large software institution, once basically asked me, Harish, you have PhD. Do you have intellectual discussions in rural areas? What do I tell? So the gap of superiority of man-made degrees, like I keep saying that if you and me did a PhD on tomatoes or any damn thing, right, or sugarcane, we are called experts, while a farmer doing 45 years of tomato and sugarcane will never be called an expert. You would give stalwarts of the IT industry honorary degrees for what they have done. But tell me, how many times have we given an honorary degree to a farmer?
Who actually knows much more hands-on from...
Yeah, but we always romantically, he or she will sit on the floor and I'll sit on a chair, right? That levels of hierarchy ki kahan hai. And even them, how many farmers will actually come and sit here in front of me? Sir, kya table, right, boss. Where is that equality? Because we have subdued them. Like, जो अंग्रेजी बात, English बात करता पढ़ा लिखा है, जो हिंदी बात करता वो देहाती है. Right? And what's wrong with dehati word ko hum negative kar. We have put it as a negative
connotation,
term, right? So I think that's where I would say that's the difference between we are intellectually poor in thinking that they are intellectually poor. So how do you unlearn where your degrees become a complete barrier in many ways? Moment you put a title next to your name on a visiting card, you have exclusively you created. What? When people say I'm doctor, you had 5 years to waste.
Why do you say that?
The poor didn't have the 5 years. Do you think any poor person has 5 years to waste? Can you imagine, think 5 years for a degree that you're not going to hardly use? Maybe in some research, yes, people do that. But how many people in the world have the luxury to spend 5 years of their life? Not that they could not have done it.
But the opportunity cost for them
Would have been very high. And then you say I'm exclusive to them, which is ridiculous, right? Uske paas time nahi tha, and say now I'm better than you. So if you're looking at an active life of 30, 40 years, right? Active life of contributing to the world in many ways, right? 40. You're learning the 18, 20 years, and then you're advising, etc. Active 40. You're 5 years of that life you're wasting in many ways, right? Again, man-made degrees. In a sense, if a person who invented the wheel stood in front of you, according to the definition, he or she is illiterate. So how do you define illiteracy? The old temples, the mosques, the churches were built by people with PhDs in architecture. Then why are we so stuck up to this man-made certification on our walls? And why do you self-glorify you? I'm a doctor. But a doctor, I should appreciate and clap. A farmer, brilliant farmer. Say, I'm a farmer, what you get? A farmer. Our mindset is poorly designed. Not designed, I would say. The way we are taught, way we are imbibed, like this is what it is. We are already compartmentalized by the time we are 13. Oh God, maid servant. Look at the connotation. And we blame the British or colonistic. We are colonistic. Every day we are colonistic. Yeah. Street vendor, bahar niklo yahan. Kya kaam karti hai? Kaam wali aayi hai. What is it? Such a degrading library. My driver has been with me for 20 years. You want your promotion, you want your every year, you want your salary increase. But you've not let your driver come up in life. Right? You don't have a contract with your maid servant. If she asks 20 rupees extra, you shout at it. When a street vendor charges you more, you say, are you cheating? When you go to a mall, then you define the same thing as expensive. And that's when I would say my education was a complete barrier.
You mentioned that it took 4 years for you to unlearn what they taught in IIT. How did you unlearn and what did you unlearn?
In the early 90s in Mangalore and Puttur, I'd put up a stall for solar powered TV and so there were 600 other stalls. So I had no money, so I put up a stall, etc. So I would sleep in the stall ratko because you had stuff in it. So a lot of the other people who stayed back, the owners would leave and they had the quote-unquote labor. So they all come to my stall because I had a solar-powered TV at that point of time. So it was fun, like 16, 17 of us would eat, sleep, everything else, right? On the 17th day, I had a couple of friends of mine come from abroad. And in the evening, this 16, 17 came up and said, how do you know them, right? So I said, the friend said in Kannada that, so you are learned. And they apologized. In 5-10 seconds, I lost 17 friends. The hierarchy came up. They were no longer friends to me. And they all apologized for what they spoke with me. Why? So my education destroyed me in many ways, right? Completely. So it's just a so-called tool that you're lucky to have had. But don't glorify those tools by saying that you have it. It's a tool that you should use it so that others too have it. It's not you have to have it. And you don't have to tom-tom about it, right? In a sense, you were lucky, you were fortunate, you had the time, your parents were in the right position, somebody, that's it. That like you are a 100-meter race, you're at 50 meters and say you won the race. So I think that's where I think so I gave up all my degrees in 94.
What does giving up the degrees mean?
I burn it up. That's why I get very hassled when people say, doctor. I'm not doctor. I'm not. If you take it, you can also have the right to give it up, right?
You just burned the degrees.
Yeah, I don't. Do I have a degree? No. I don't have my marks certificate from IIT? No, I don't.
And what caused you to burn your degrees up?
What is the use? Why should I have it? Man-made, right? Do you get a degree from your parents because they kept you for 18 years at home? Just because you went somewhere else, they get a degree that you prove yourself that you went. The best proof is you do what you're learning on the way and start proving it.
And coming to the point that when did you realize in life, आपको कब पता चला कि यार I am the product of subsidy, I need to do something for the country?
Always it was there, because it was there as I graduated. See, बस मैं US जाके वापस आऊँगा, because my subsidy is more than that. Who is my owners? When people say, no, I'm taking money from the shareholders to create value. Who are my shareholders? My shareholders are the poor who paid taxes via buying salt and sugar, right? Those taxes paid my IT education. So ultimately, they have sent me somewhere for education.
And when did you realize this? How did you realize this?
Over the years, I mean, in a sense, even in hostel, I think IIT hostel also, where you had brilliant guys who were working in the canteen, right? And if our canteen guy actually knew exactly which course was there, he was there for 30 years, right? Now Pradeep, a guy who runs the fruit stall in IIT in our hostel, right? I would say he has the biggest connections of the CEOs around the world. He's an institution in himself, right? Now, what difference he had? I mean, we graduated, made this one, but Pradeep, I mean, his kids could have gone into it, right? But we don't. When in the newspaper it comes like the auto rickshaw driver's son got into IIT, should it come in the newspaper? Because it's an exception that should not have happened, and it has happened.
Now we are showcasing and highlighting.
Yeah, news. That means it's not a norm. We are putting it how great, rather than questioning that why should it not be a norm.
But do you think to make it a norm, we need to highlight that it's not a norm?
But are we doing it? In a sense, we read about it. Great, यार, उसको facilitate कर दिया, पर process को कभी देखते नहीं है ना. Hierarchy कर दी है. For example, this country succeeded on ITIs, not IITs.
Why do you say that?
Because tell me one rural innovation or innovation for the poor that this country IITs have come out with. The ITI students are the students who own the problem, because they come from different backgrounds. They solve it. They go back to the. If same subsidies came to the ITIs in our countries, unfortunately in our country you have ITI, regional engineering and IITs, right? It has to be this way. I need to go. Germany and US are great examples of vocational schools. Vocational schools. Germany, Mercedes cars, Benz and all are not engineers from MIT or engineering colleges. They are from the vocational schools. And unless you do not respect vocational schools thinking, you're not going to develop truly in many ways. A lot of the kids come with the problem statement of what they felt their father went through or mother went through in farming. So they're in a better position to solve, provided you gave them the opportunity, like failure capital. मैं IIT से हूँ, अगर मैं fail कर गया, तो market fail किया. अगर ITI का बंदा fail किया, वो बंदा ठीक नहीं यार. That guy is a failure. I will never be called a failure. वो कुछ और problem होगा, right? So the question is, but we would get failure capital to experiment, innovate. California हो, IIT का. With management due diligence, what is the degree of your management, right? I am Gava, ठीक है, पैसा डाल दें. Experience तो कोई पूछता नहीं है. What is your background or where you? No, management किया ना, I am Bangalore से. So if the same capital was given to, tell me one CEO in this country who is a non-English speaking CEO, right?
It's very hard to think. Maybe a couple of names, one or two names.
Non-English speakers तो है ही नहीं. आप conflict of interest जानते हो, हिंदी में conflict of interest को क्या बोलोगे आप? Where are we? 650 million people को क्या platform है बोलो यहाँ एक, I mean anywhere in China, आप अफ्रीका में भी जाओ, non-English speakers को chance का है. I'm not telling. How do you create a platform for the vernacular speaking crowd to come up?
Do you see any models coming up to solve for that thing?
I mean, there are models coming up, unless we see the political model is very strong. I mean, we might criticize the politicians, right? The political model is strong where non-English speakers come up because they have a mass movement.
But they target that way, no?
See, some of the best systems thinkers
Are politicians?
And the poor. Poor will absolutely keep us out strike ho gaya, but they know a plan B and a plan C, and what happens if I don't go here, go there, I have to survive, right? But we all only have plan A, not plan B. Politician knows कि मैं अगर ऐसा statement मारा, it will have this repercussion now and 5 years down the line. They're not stupid at all. We think, oh, क्या statement मारा? They all know where the statements, what to do, where you do. Brilliant. I mean, that's why if you see, like, politicians don't age. In the sense they don't, I mean, their mind is super sharp. They remind. I mean, you can criticize, but the poor also, right? So the systems thinking process of how do you create a platform similar to how political class come up, how non-English speaking innovators can come up is if you transform the vocational schools like the ITIs to have failure labs, okay, and put in enormous risk capital saying that, boss, come and fail. What do you want to experiment? You'll see the transformation in this country.
A couple of things, sir. Number one, this failure capital concept of failure capital is amazing. आप ऐसे कोई मॉडल्स है जहाँ पर फेलियर कैपिटल इंडिया में अवेलेबल है?
नहीं है. Failure capital, risk capital है. Failure capital. That's exactly if you look at SELCO. We've done this. We do this every 3 years, 2 years, the concept of failure conference. Where we say, boss, don't sugarcoat. Any key, boss, what is your weakness? I work too hard, kind of, right? So we invite speakers who are bold enough to stand up on the stage, said, these are the things I have failed. Don't even sugarcoat it with learnings and keep it at, that's it. Don't give a reason why you failed. Just say failed, let the audience absorb it and take it, right? So we would bring from comedians to energy guys, to academics, to government, to athletes, to groups, to even rock bands, saying that why did their songs fail, right? How did the song fail? Or para-athletes of how do they cope up with failures, right? So as long as you not cope, how do you actually stand up and say, I failed? I mean, I ran a business and ABC. Well, no, these are the failures, and let the youngsters figure out. So how do you plan? It's about how do you admit to everybody so that another person need not repeat the mistake that you did. It's not about putting yourself down and making sure that others don't repeat the mistakes. So the failure capital is basically, people might call it angel investment in some case, R&D, but there is nothing of that called for the non-English speakers or the vernacular speakers, right? The only thing that we ask is that, boss, honest hai kya, theek hai, de de paisa.
And what's the ticket size that you given for what problem?
We would have given from anywhere from 50,000 rupees to 50 lakhs, 60 lakhs.
So tell me how to be smart like a politician or a poor for people in the middle. How do you learn system engineering like a politician?
No, system engineering is always about what is plan B, plan C, right? System engineering also is looking at, it's like, as we say that if I leave you in a village and say, boss, I want you to look at these 10 houses and give me a report on what these 10 houses need and give me a solution. So you do this analysis of these 10 houses and saying, I'm giving you a report. Then after like 1 week, I come back and take you by helicopter upper, and there's a fire somewhere. It will come in 2 years and hit this village. I'm going to drop you back. And now you need to give me a need assessment of this village again, right? Then you do a need assessment. Abhi 2 saal mein fire aane wala hai. Then I took you 20,000 foot, like the 5 years mein tsunami aane wala hai, right? Now when I stop you there, the question is, you have no choice to evacuate them. So what you'll do, you'll try building their houses in terms of fire resistant, tsunami, livelihoods that are resilient. You've already looked at, so your created solutions for today, 2 years down the line, 5 years down the line, with an ecosystem thinking in place, right? So how do you teach? The best way to look at is stop pushing the students about like kitna marks mila tumko. Marks milke kya karoge tum? What are you doing? Like the first thing the girl comes up when you have 95 out of 100. The first question people ask her is, where did you lose your 5 marks? Not what are you going to do with 95. What are the things that you learned? Give me a couple of applications from which you learned, right? Otherwise, we unnecessarily compare, was tera cousin ko 96 mila. It's about very short-term competition and thinking. Class mein first among the 30 people there, right? World mein to nahi, in terms of why. World mein first, what are you going to do with it, right? So I keep asking you, sometimes convocations when you hand out the gold medalists, I said, in the last 20 years, what have the last 20 gold medalists have done? And the contribution is very less. Extremely less, right? So it's a one, again, award, theek hai, usko kya kiya tumne? It's a very short-term competition thinking. That's why we think in silos, right? Mechanical engineer, class में first आया, वो सर management, finance में management करना चाहता है, right? And what is the logic? Even like ठीक है IIT pass हो गया, and then you go to IIM. So तुम engineering क्यों किया फिर? Right? Nobody asked. Then I ask. Agar if you look at any other country, you pass out from an engineering, you're an engineer, right? But in India, IT is a chappa, not an engineer.
Why is the problem? And what's the solution?
Because the solution is, how do you make it interesting that engineering is problem solving? ये नहीं कि prof आके पढ़ाया. I mean, if you tell me to draw a car and thermodynamics, I'll draw you. मेरे को car दिखाया, I'll run away. Right? We're not like, oh, machine hai, interesting. How do you innovate? How do you go to the next level? Right? क्या कर सकता है? Hands-on excitement. वही machinery 1950s है, right? Your ability to exam is तुम कितना formulas तुम wrote कर सकते हो. But what is the actual applications to you don't make it fun. You don't make engineering fun. You don't make studies fun. If you look at, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 people, school मने डर कि टीचर ने कब मारा, डांटा, होमवर्क करा नहीं. It's never about a positive thing.
Right, कि यार कुछ अच्छा होगा.
It is all about fear. ये नहीं, होमवर्क करके नहीं आओ तो टीचर मारेगी, बाहर गए. What is this, यार?
Make a school where people want to come.
How do you make engineering want to come, right? Come, open it up. What is the fun? And that I think is, and the peer pressure की तरह cousin इतना on कर रहा है यार, Infosys में या Wipro में, right? So I am, say, graduate, छप्पा मारो. क्या किया बाद में? What do you do with it? What do you do with that bloody degree? What do you do with it? Nobody asks you, right? It's all about that rat race. How do you change those thought processes? क्या है?
Any models that you see जो ये कर रहे हैं? And where did you send your kid to learn like that?
So the question is, I'm glad she picked up. She's gone to Olin School of Engineering. So she thinks it's the best decision she has made, so, which is good.
Tell me, sir, who were some mentors? Because, Mr. Martin Luther King के जो driver थे, you learned the concept of I have a dream from him.
One is that, but also there were few, like Dennis Hayes, the founder of Earth Day. Richard Hansen, who did the first solar in Dominican Republic in 1984, that was 40 years ago. So you learn, or the first customer of Richard Hansen itself in Dominican Republic, Martinez, right, who was a defined, in our terms, illiterate, right, in our terms, but incredible in terms of the decentralization and thought process, sustainability, and what we today define it as social enterprise and organic farming, which he thought was way of life anyway. Why should you be anything else, right? So I think those are a lot of the street vendors, a lot of farmers in India, a lot of the eateries in Sri Lanka, for example, and there are a lot of people that you learn from. Why do they cook? Why do they have created an eatery here, not there? The concept of seating, concept of hospitality. Those are things that you learn from a lot of these characters who are great friends over a period of time. And there are a lot of people who can mentor you. And why should you look at for a name for a mentor? It is the individual's capacity to struggle, and because moment somebody like who is upper than you, he or she becomes a mentor in your sense of class. But a person lower so-called your class will never become a mentor for you.
Because again, the mental
barrier, right? Nobody will say that 5 farmers were my mentors who taught me everything I know today. If they even do it, it is from a very romantic perspective, not that unko phone karke mera ye problem hua hai, kya karoge, right? Because your ego will stop you. So why does those mentors has to be only of a certain class of people that everybody would have heard? Why can't we learn it from everybody? How this person is bloody surviving on the street selling idlis? They earn more than Ola because Ola is a loss-making organization. Uber is the biggest loss-making company, but we make a case study which is taught in IIMs. Why is he glorified while a street vendor has made profits for the last 25 years. If she makes a loss, her 3 kids will starve. She has always made more money than Ola, Uber, any damn company in the world but never a case study. Why? That's why I said, we all aspire to become an Ola, Uber, right? I said, boss, take up a challenge. Can you run a street vending business for one day? If you look at a Madiwala, when the street vendor goes to Madiwala in the morning at 4 o'clock, she buys vegetable according to which part of Bangalore she goes to. Then she displays the vegetables in a way which vegetables has to be sold off first, right? And how is her pricing strategy at 8 o'clock when she has no storage at home? And then even after that, she has enough money to pay the rental of the cart, the back to the working capital, and then she has enough money for her 3 kids to be surviving, right? Or going to school even. And you will not hear कि मैं कल से नहीं आने वाली है because उसका धंधा बंद हो गया. Numerous such case studies are there. We never, ever study. Even if we study, we glorify it, which romanticizes, which is insulting to her.
I'm also interested to know that, I have a dream philosophy that you learned from the driver of Martin. Can you walk us through that?
No, the question is, if you look at I Have a Dream, or even comparing to what Tony Halloran or Martin Luther King, to what you call it as Gandhi's sustainability concept, right? It is always about plan B, plan C, plan D. It's about coming up with multiple options and not giving excuses of not reaching the goal that you want to. But today, I have a dream, what only with plan B? वो बंद हो गया सर, और गवर्नमेंट का करप्शन के कारण मेरा नहीं हुआ, मेरे पेरेंट्स ने नहीं छोड़ा, मेरे का ऐसा प्रॉब्लम्स हो गया, इश्यू हो गया. Exactly the opposite.
12 साल पुराना मैं इंटरव्यू देखा था आपका शेखर सर के साथ. उसमें तब वो बता रहे थे कि you got light to some 1 million households and hence 5 million folks. आज की डेट में SELCO ne, tell me the impact numbers, and then we'll also want to learn the story of SELCO. But today, 2024, how many folks have impacted?
I would say today, more than couple of million have livelihood options using solar, because as aspirations for us, lighting was okay, which gets people to a certain level. But livelihoods actually pushes people beyond and creates a safety net. Abhi kya कि we all have safety nets, and safety nets means अगर हमारा bank account खाली हो गया, it will not push us into poverty. Unfortunately, the poor don't have those safety nets, right? Even as child becomes sick or the able-bodied person goes sick, they can get into poverty, which will actually push them into 2 decades of coming back. If the most earning member of the family dies, the family is dead. If there's a big drought in Maharashtra, the families go back by 2 decades, right? So we thought, how do you look at sustainable energy as a safety net?
Okay.
Right? So that even if you have drought, you have a solar powered swing machine, solar powered printer, Xerox. How do you own assets? How do you create those safety nets? So you don't fall. The way we do thinking projects today, 10 kilometer ka line banana hai. तो आज Bangalore to Tumkur बना दिया, tomorrow Bangalore to Chennai. So in 5 years, I have 5 projects, all 15-20 kilometers. एक यहाँ जा रहा. But it's not gone to 20 towards Delhi. Because our focus is so narrow. कि project किया, मेरे को ये आज का, I don't care what 2 years down the line हो रहा, right? So the concept of SELCO of creating livelihoods is, boss, how are we creating livelihoods? Or how are we creating safety nets that are beyond generations?
Walk me through day 0. Imagine that we are building a case study on SELCO. Help us understand how did it evolve, what were some learnings, what were some key pivot moments, and then where are we now?
People thought we did lighting. At that point of time, many Indians did not have light in the country, or also did not have access to reliable electricity. So that the work in a shop or a swing machine light ka, so it reduced the income generating possibilities. Light chala gaya, restaurant band ho gaya, etc., right? So we said, let's enter into solar powered lighting, which was the most simplest, and that's what. And how do you create financing? That's another story. How do you actually convince the local banks? But lighting itself is not just pure lighting. And also the thought process, a lot of my colleagues who are, and I don't know what their degrees are. Like for example, one person, my colleague I don't know what his qualification was. An auto rickshaw driver came and said, I want a 3-light system. So he went to the house, he broke a top of the house, broke a part of it, put one light in the middle so that the light was shining in all 3 rooms. He basically said he needed light in 3 rooms, not 3 lights. Who redefined the problem statement? Typical sales guy running from any management school said, the cost of a 3-light system is that, Excel sheet. No, he can't afford, so subsidy डालो.
मैं जब बहुत छोटा था ना तो मेरे दादाजी के पास एक कैलकुलेटर था जो सोलर पावर से चलता था, वो छोटा सा था बिल्कुल. लेकिन क्या सोलर वाज इतना एफिशिएंट बैक देन कि वो मतलब इनफ लाइट दे सके? हाउ डिड यू सॉल्व दैट टेक्निकली?
No, so see, the thing is that we used to say that solar is expensive for the rich and affordable for the poor. Because if you look at in a country like ours or anywhere else, like look at Bangalore street vendor. She used to spend 15 rupees a day on kerosene. That is 450 rupees a month on kerosene for one light. Where we would spend on electric light less than 50 rupees a month. She was spending 450 rupees, which was incredibly expensive, right? So, and also, अगर उनको बोला गया कि मैं solar light डालूं, and she'll say, solar ठीक है, but it's expensive, she would say 300 rupees a month is expensive, but 10 rupees a day is fine, right? But our cash flow is on a daily basis, right? अपना cash flow monthly है, we define it at that way. So, combining this concept of cash flow economics of 10 rupees a day, you solar light अगर मैं 10 रुपया डाला, which was what it was at that point of time, an entrepreneur, we put up an entrepreneur who would charge solar batteries at his home, deliver solar charged batteries to individual entrepreneurs at 10 rupees per day. Then she would save 5 rupees because she was saying she's spending 15 rupees of kerosene. He is paying to the bank 6 rupees for a battery. So 4 rupees per battery is making a profit by serving 30 street vendors for 2 hours of work. I have not used the word poverty, nor I have used the word climate change. But solution aa gaya. Same way, another example, and how do you put solar to people who earn less than 15-20 rupees a day?
How did you put that?
So the question is, when you go there, क्या चाहिए? What is the aspiration? कि मेरा बच्चा को पढ़ाई करना चाहिए ताकि वो हमारे जैसा ना हो, आगे बढ़े. What you needed was a lighting. So what we did was we put up a light with the battery less than the weight of a lunchbox. We put solar panels on schools, right? So mother would say, I don't care whether you study or not, you go to school because my battery has to get charged. So where did you learn from? We learned it from midday meal. Midday meal kya hai? Bachcha log kyun aa raha? Can we actually reverse that? Can't solar panels be educational infrastructure?
ये आपका आइडिया था?
Yeah, exactly. What we did in SELCO, quite a few of us came out together with that. That's why I'm saying you can learn from anything. That's why as I ask the youngsters, read anything. How was water supplied in rural Cambodia? Can it be put for your energy model?
शुरुआत में जब मैं आपसे सुबह पूछा था, आपने बताया था you are trying to learn how the water problem is getting solved in Africa and Latin America, and so that you have analogies to solve it in a similar way for the energy issues. Give me some analogy.
If you look at Cambodia or in Argentina, mostly Cambodia, where you have community-owned storage tanks and community-owned water pumps, which actually store the water during the night, during the daytime.
Okay.
And then use for irrigation in the night time, so evaporation less hota hai. Right? Through drip irrigation, right? Now I reverse it. The storage tank could be a common microgrid where 20 women actually own the microgrid, supply electricity for their own turmeric processing center, and part of it to rentals for Xerox machine ke liye, right? You learn it from because water is one step further behind in too good in terms of why should I pay for it, right? So your financial sustainability, the thought process, the business modeling, if water has been successful, it's very easy to look at from an energy perspective of common goods. So that's why, see, there are failures in successes and successes in failures. You might have a brilliant process, but if you don't know the type of people at two ends of the process, your process will fail.
This is very interesting topic. Tell me, what were certain technological innovations failed because of social construct in SELCO?
Solar powered roti rolling machine in North Karnataka would succeed because it's a roti eating area and it's for jawar roti. When you design it for jawar rotis, and then because a lot of the women and men actually make rotis at home and sell it to the restaurants, right? So normally it takes a minute 30 seconds to make one. Roti rolling machine makes it to 25 seconds. So you're able to triple. So instead of doing 200 rotis a day, you make it 500 rotis a day and actually sell it. So huge success in North Karnataka, and even and 1,500 has been happened. So it's a success. But if you look at Tamil Nadu, where we have a rice huller, right, for example, right, we do a rice hulling. Instead of taking 3 days, you can do hull the rices in 45 minutes. But if you take the same rice huller, what you do in Tamil Nadu to Assam, it will fail because the type of rice is very different. So how do you deal with it in many ways? How do you understand? So, or even technologies are like for example, rice mill, roti rolling machine. Are we technology guys or in roti rolling roti? No, that's not a roti. It's a machine only for jawar and millets. This rice milling machine is only for A, B, and C. Right? Phone. Now, because phone is not phone, ना कौन सा phone चाहिए, किसके लिए चाहिए, कितना capacity का चाहिए, क्या चाहिए, right? Computer कौन सा? It's a unfortunately, when it comes to the poor, underserved communities, we generalize these statements, and our innovations are only catered to hand down. Like rich के लिए है, उसको कैसे मैं modify करके पढ़ूँ, right? We come up with solutions and then we try to fit a problem to it, right? We don't work with the problem and relook at resource poor areas mein, how do I redesign X-ray machines or M photographs for delivery or warmers? Because the excitement of being in India, Indonesia, and other parts of the world is that you're going to redefine the developing parts of the developed countries also.
How?
Because if you look at a brilliant baby warmer and a maternal labor room that you designed for rural Meghalaya, which has reduced the transaction call for the pregnant women to come, it will be easily replicated in Harlem for the African American community to come and afford it. So that's why these country boundaries sometimes restrict you in our thinking process, right? We have to say, okay, boss, agar hum Maharashtra mein for the drought areas have succeeded for certain soil condition and for certain levels of water depth, water pump to grow millets with drip irrigation. Okay, what are the similar areas? Then you find, okay, thousands of acres in Ethiopia, thousands of acres in Argentina, thousands of acres in California tribal regions. We could actually replicate this process.
Have you seen some interesting applications of your technology? जहाँ पर वो उस चीज के लिए नहीं बनाया गया था, लेकिन it was actually being used for something else.
When we did, for example, before the airport was built, Bangalore airport, that was a silk belt, silkworms rearing belt. So what used to happen is when they used to have these kerosene lamps to go and feed the silkworms at home. And one drop of kerosene can spoil a whole basket. And do haath chahiye tha, so what we redesigned a solar powered headlamp. So that headlamp got utilized, like what used to happen in Gujarat, in the rural areas of flower plucking. You know, flower plucking normally happens between women wake up at 2 o'clock, 2:30 to 4:30 फ्लावर प्लग करते हैं. 4:30 को आप बस में अहमदाबाद चले जाते हैं, अहमदाबाद में बेचते हैं 6:30-7 बजे को, राइट? एंड सो एक हाथ में लैंटर्न एंड बास्केट ऐसा, राइट? सो अभी सडनली यू हैड दिस लैम्प्स which led to both their hands, leading to 1 hour instead of 2 hours. And then also created what you call it as women who brought 20-30 of these lights and would rent out to these. So the applications diversify, right? As long as you're able to not say, ever make a case study like it was great for the silk weaving. Case study should always end with analogies, so that you leave the reader with thoughts, okay, what else can I think? Otherwise, I read a case study, this was brilliant for mulberry farmers, close. So where else can I go for mulberry farming that I can push this light? Because where we are taught, no, answer, question, answer.
That's so restricted.
Moment you open up in the last 3 paragraphs that it could be used for wherever, can you think of 20 other applications? It changes.
Which is the best case study on SELCO, sir, according to you? Because बहुत सारे लोगों ने attempt करा.
I've not read any of them. Okay, I've not read because people write. I've not read any of those case studies. I mean, in a sense, you will always question some of these, right? And but the case studies that normally I would go into are case studies where that after a couple of, like for example, the case studies written on Arvind Eye Care. But the point is, the basic success of Arvind Eye was What Arvind Eye Care did was, it's not about low cost, it's all that is great. Now I have a person in the rural area and my father wants to go. What I say is, I always hesitate to take him because मेरे को leave नहीं मिला, मेरा job हो जाएगा, father cataract है ना, can you wait for a month more? What Arvind Eye Care did was they created these kiosks in the rural areas with a computer and everything else. And then people would sit, and there's a central Madurai mein there are TV stations, right? People would say, ki boss, right, a problem, abhi aa jao. Meantime, a ticket gets generated to the local bus guys. And then you go to the bus stop, and the conductor has the ticket. You get your father onto your bus, and then the conductor will tell, I'll drop you tomorrow, lessening your transaction of going. That's made it successful. That's not written in any case study. Basic point of why it succeeded, I have not seen that written in any case study of Arvind Kai. Everything about how they made it local, how large number of operations happened, it's subsidized, 40% subsidized coming. That's all great, yes. But they solve the transaction cost of poor reaching.
Similarly, if we have to define why SELCO succeeded, which is not in any case study, what would you say, sir?
Once I was about to take a flight from, I was sat in a seat in Bangalore to Mumbai. And when I was sitting and I was wearing a SELCO t-shirt, right? Then somebody said, oh, so from SELCO, so you work in Guru Prakash's company. That's a success. For me, that's like Guru Prakash, for example, and Mohan and all of came. I mean, for example, all of these colleagues of mine started in 99. Shankar, for example, came to clean tables and to cook coffee. After 6 months, we said, enough, abhi upar. Now he manages SELCO Bangalore, Ramnagar, 6 branches with more than 3 crore sales a year. 3 crores is bigger than many of the other solar companies in the world, in fact. Shankar karta hai. That's why we don't use any of our visiting cards, none of our visiting cards have titles. And no degrees, boss. Degrees bahar rakh ke aao tum. Right? Now these are the guys, like Guru Prakash, for example. Joined bola ke first year, he said, I'm resigning, sir. My parents want me back, 1 acre land, etc., etc. I said, tu resign kara, main resign karta hu. Kyun khola hum log? फिर हम लोग उसके घर पे ऑफिस खोला. Now he is second in command of SELCO India. And मेरे को अवार्ड मिलता है because मैं अंग्रेजी बात करता हूँ. Purely that, right? I went to IIT because 300 million Indians did not write the exam. Right? So I think this is where it's a non-English, it's very exclusive in terms of entrepreneurship, exclusive in terms of innovations, exclusive in terms of case studies. We are losing out in many cases. Brilliant operational models. And unfortunately, उसको हम जुगाड़ बोल के trivialize कर देते हैं. जुगाड़ है, बोले क्या जुगाड़ है? Innovation है. But poor करेगा तो जुगाड़ है. हम करेगा तो innovation है.
Also tell me the financial aspect of making it financially sustainable. How are you able to achieve that?
No. See, the question is, it's all about what the problem statement is, right? Problem statement is, what is financial sustainability at all, right? In terms of that it has to recover the cost, but who defines the period? No airports in the world make money. It's operational expense, where you're making money on the operations, right? The fundamental when you're doing solar-powered sewing machine, first thing the Babel way define it, कि boss 5 साल में हम उसको recover कर सकते हैं कि नहीं, we talk about. But never caught कि उसको first month से उसका income generate होने वाला है कि नहीं. We first focus on our financial sustainability, not hers. You start defining financial sustainability to hers first, you will become financial sustainable.
So what's the biggest problem that SELCO is facing? What's the biggest challenge at this? What's the problem statement that we are chasing right now? Where are we in the metrics of solving that problem? And what's the biggest challenge from going from this place to that place?
No, the biggest challenge is the siloed thinking of our educational process. The time it takes somebody to join, boss, I'm a mechanical engineer. Boss, you're a solution provider. You're a partner to the providing a solution. To get that thinking out, sir, we are also ingrained, sir, out of syllabus. Sir, I'm not an expertise. I said, टोमेटो वेंडर, अगर टोमेटो वेंडर का कॉस्ट कल टोमेटोस ज्यादा हो गया, वुड शी स्टॉप सेलिंग? शी विल बाय पोटैटोस एंड डाइवर्सिफाई, एंड बिकॉज 3 किड्स को फीड करना है. Does she say I'm a tomato expert and said, as we get more educated, we get less useful for society? In many ways, right? Very less useful. That is the biggest challenge. People who apply, come, talk to, very project-based thinking. आप CSR पकड़ लो, आप कोई भी पकड़ो, मार्च 31 तक करना है, इतना CSR मेरे को करना है, राइट? और सर मेरे को मीटिंग में नहीं बुलाया गया सर, मेरे को बोला नहीं गया सर, right? Do the poor have time to all get excuse? Now tell me, one poor in this country can afford to come and say, I want to work from home. Yeah, are we? That's my biggest challenge. How do you break that siloed thinking in terms of education? How do you break the thinking that there's only plan A, there's no plan B, plan C, plan D, hona chahiye, blah, blah, etc. Or what do you follow? There's no time, 1.5 degrees is going to come up by 2030. That sense of urgency, thought process, right? Somewhere you, see the question is, our focus is career, not knowledge. More I learn, read the boringest things right now, right? Read those stuff जो कोई और पढ़ेगा नहीं, कैसा किया, और learn कि कैसे किया, how do I model it, how do I actually create these models, right? Can I try it, I think the biggest challenge is if you are creating a cohort of thinkers, but with an implementation bent of mind, you'll change the country. Either you have thinkers, or you are forced implementers in the NGO sector, civil society, right? Project-based thinking. Sir, मेरा funding खाली 3 महीना है, मेरे को कैसा भी करना है. Boss, you are creating, so what we have, bunch of half-built one-bedroom houses, right? Project दिखा दिया, photo दिखा दिया, right? The challenge there, challenge of creating that.
कैसे होगा? How can I build a cohort of thinkers?
This is a bunch not only telling to the youngsters, but also my generation, next generation, right? When people blame कि youngsters mobile phone पे हैं, when people blame boss attention span नहीं है, I simple my question वो generation को बोलता है कि आप क्या करते हैं? If you were born today, you would have done the same thing. So don't bull me about it. But what we are not today, the challenges for the young generation is in a country like ours, just like I was thinking of the hierarchy of intellectual poverty and this poverty, right? I dismiss the youngster because saying तेरे पास क्या experience है? And I got hurt if a youngster tells me some better idea. The egos of our generation is also a big barrier. We always want the youngsters to learn, but we will never unlearn. Our generation is not creating, अरे तुमको क्या पता है, मैं 30 साल से कर रहा हूँ ये. You shut it off, right? And that is a problem. And my question is to the youngsters, and especially both men and women, in a sense that I think somewhere you also should stop looking at excuse, sir, अगर ये होता तो, did you try? नहीं sir, government में corruption है. I said, boss, there are corrupt. How does it affect you from creating a solution, right? Right? We have done for 30 years, boss. I have gone to champions in the government. I have my respect for the government is like जनता बोलता सर पानी लीक कर रहा है, right? Yeah, हो रहा है. I agree. I said, boss, give me 5 solutions. I'll take to the IS officer. बाद में सर गार्बेज ठीक है, तुम क्या? मैं बोला फर्स्ट गार्बेज फेंका कौन फर्स्ट? यू हैव द हाई राइज गाइज अपने डिक्की में कार में ले आते हैं, यहीं कहीं कोई देखा नहीं, फेंक दिया. सो लेट्स बी वेरी क्लियर, इफ यू वेर द IS ऑफिसर, इट्स अ चैलेंजिंग कंट्री बॉस. तुमने जितना भी रिसोर्सेस हो, it moves, the country moves, you have safety, you have to do that. It's now citizens' prerogative. The poor are poor not because the government is not doing that, you are not doing much, right? Don't listen to the people who say no and don't waste your time. In nahi hone wala, don't waste you don't have time to listen. Some good people who have done mat karo because maine aise kiya hai, theek hai, listen, because I've gone through this road, there are 4 potholes, don't go this road, right? Watch out. But you might have a better, nahi sir, मेरे पास है, my tires are better. अरे, let me learn from it, right? Get those champions and work with those champions.
कोई आपके साथ आके करना चाहे, any weird, how
my
to
cell numbers and my emails are open. And one thing is my phone is never shut off. So, रात को 1 बजे phone करना यार करो. Don't worry about it. That's because you might have an issue that needs to be solved in the next 5 minutes. That's more important.
जैसे आपने एक छोटी सी बात बताई थी कि 2030 तक we are going to rise 1.5 degree Celsius. What are some worrying? What are some facts? What are some things that you're worried about the most? This.
We are, even our thinking silos is not continuous. See, if you're worried continuously, maybe you have the passion to solve it, right? If, like, for example, Bangalore was 40 degrees. Now, as soon as it rains, we all forget. But people don't think that it was not an event.
It's a constant, continuous now.
Yeah, like, for example, now the droughts in Maharashtra, right? But more importantly here, if you look at you just question some of the guards of the villas, right? एक को पूछा था कहाँ से हो, बोला कि आसाम से हूँ। तो क्या करते थे? सर कुछ नहीं कर, अरे कुछ तो करते थे वैसे नहीं सर, 3 साल से फ्लड हुआ और राइस उगाते थे, तो खाने पीने आ गया, मैं यहाँ आ गया, मैं सर काम कितना से 8 जनरेशन से, राइट? So we have lost an 8th generation. अगर मैं LinkedIn profile उनका करता, 8th generation rice breeder we have lost for the country, right? When you get a tribal from Odisha to here work here, you have lost 10 generations of tribal knowledge of natural herbs. So we are de-skilling in a massive way and saying that we are upskilling them for better livelihoods. For what? As a guard. So we have, from a paddy farmer, we have made him a guard. We have de-skilled and we are saying we are upskilling them. That's brain drain for the world. And those are the people who will actually know the solutions of climate resilience. But unfortunately now they are in the slum shelters, they are villa guardsmen, we call them migrants, we call them drowned people, we give them galis. They're all human beings with incredible experience, individual names. I think that scares me with that we are negating that whole knowledge and unifying the knowledge and solutions, saying that this is the solution, because all solutions will now be either Google search or by what we are going to feed in, not them into the AI. So what AI which is coming in are solutions of ours, not the solutions that these guys have actually done.
Tell me about future, sir. If you have to predict certain things about future, what those would be? A lot of smart folks like Peter Thiel says, if you have to do something impactful, try to understand future.
The future is, obviously the migration is going to happen. We all migrated one way or the other. My grandparents migrated, great-grandparents migrated somewhere, right? So the thing, and we said कि बाकी लोग को migrate नहीं करना चाहिए, right? हम आ गए, बाकी लोग गए, अरे क्यों हो रहा है, ये slums क्यों हो रहा है, right? The point is, the future, the best future is going to be where we are able to create equal opportunities in anywhere. So where people are able to, for example, I create in Dharwad, I create in Nagpur, I create in the rural villages of Odisha where it is. The danger is, the future is, if we are not going to create that, we as a world, we cannot afford to actually have such types of large urbanization, where the resources are extremely pathetic in terms of water resources, in terms of the transportation, the quality of life, everything in urbanization, right? We need to be dispersed. And so I somehow feel that decentralized thought process, whether it's energy, whether it's empowerment, whether it's livelihoods, is going to be more inclusive in the thought process, better distribution of wealth. And if we are able to show that pockets of increase, otherwise you're going to create this different form of monopoly of information, right? And I think a lot of the younger generation should stop protesting, right? But protest by implementing. If somebody says, boss, ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, I said, okay, 5 solution मेरे को दे. Coal fired नहीं होना चाहिए, right? ठीक है, I'm from the solar field. But I said, मैं coal plant अभी shut कर दिया इंडिया में, तेरा cell phone बंद हो जाएगा. Right?
Energy चाहिए.
So we need to create, because there are two wars. There's poverty and climate change. So if we don't solve poverty with the aspirations going on, with the world getting small in terms of communication and television, aspirations of the young will go up. So we are lucky as a nation that frustration does not go onto the roads. We have some sort of a social security है हमारे country में. I completely, that's why I don't see any government that has come in has somehow put in that one way or the other.
Which is, are you talking about the Manrega? Are you talking
everything in terms of safety? Like ठीक है boss, कहीं तो job मिल जाएगा, नहीं मिलेगा, अगर try किया तो job मिल जाएगा, right? The point in Argentina, सीधा guns लेके urbanize हो गया. Brazil में guns हो गए, right? That frustration is not there. Great. So can India be a super example to showcase develop? Yes, we need to do faster. We have mistakes. I'm not disagreeing to that. We have mistakes. But we do have solutions that, so what I see in the next 5 years, a lot of the Indian models of sustainable development going into many of the nations in Africa, Latin America. And the challenge I see is that the younger generation should not lose. I mean, if you're seeing this interview, that means you already have access to a lot of things. And if you have access to a lot, you're in the top X% of the population, which, as a citizen of the world, needs to put part of your life into something so that your grandkids don't have to complain that you did nothing.
Because आपने AI की और future की बात करी, sir, do you see once the use cases of AI will become more pervasive in our day-to-day life, how is it going to affect poverty? Will AI affect poverty in a good way or a bad way?
If you look at philanthropic capital in poverty, it's reinventing the wheel every 5 years. Because if you look at today in water pumps that we have been pushed in Madhya Pradesh, those thought process and methodologies were done in Mali in 1984. So the newer generation has no clue what has happened before. Or the new philanthropy is again going for again. Because Mizoram mein, now for example, I'm doing again new with certain terrain, hilly terrain. If I do like input into AI, hilly terrain, water flowing, salt, etc., water tables 20, what type of water pump, at least I'll give 20 examples from Mali to Argentina to done, and with different financial models, I can move ahead. So I'll move faster in terms of my project and management, in terms of program design, less wastage of philanthropic capital. If that knowledge is inclusive in terms of language barriers, in terms of thought process, language. अभी क्या है कि English से translate हो जाता है. And translation is language, not social translation.
Which is coming through
Generations.
Got it. Last सवाल है सर. आपने मैं कल जब राम सर से पूछा था तो he was saying कि he's like a mentor, दोस्त, मतलब बहुत सारी चीज़ें हमको सिखाते हैं. तो उन्होंने एक बात बोली थी कि वो फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल से बहुत अच्छे से सोचते हैं और हम जितने भी अच्छे लोगों से मिलते हैं ना, these are all first principles thinker. Anybody who's young, 22-year-old, if they want to learn first principle thinking, the system design, what are 2 or 3 actionable things that you will suggest them?
No, I learn only one action, not even 2, 3. If you are able to define the problem statement, that's it. If you are able to write a question, बस क्यों कर रहे हो? Like हम जैसे मैंने previous example बोला, it's not about solar lighting, it's about lighting. It's not about water pumping, it's irrigation. If people can start working on problem statement definition, what are you trying? Because even simple thing like, मैं meeting में क्यों जा रहा हूँ? Right? Either I'm very interested in the meeting, yes, but yes, after half an hour, there are a couple of things that what is the problem statement? मैं क्यों इनके साथ बात कर रहा हूँ? Right? What is my problem statement if I define? Or even interest नहीं है. Okay, what can I actually create a problem statement that I'll be interested in the meeting? Then your interest will be there. What have I learned, right, that I didn't know, right? So I think where people very surface level, right? Surface level माने क्या है कि we always look at an iceberg model अगर बेला जाए, we only look at the top of the iceberg, जो दिखाई देता है. The more important है जो दिखाई नहीं देता. The mental model क्या है? And ask questions of what that problem statement is. For example, अभी EV आ रहा है, electric vehicles. Sir, revolution हो रहा. I said the problem statement is transportation. EV is chapter 8 यार. Why did you decide to have EV in Bangalore? Should have been अभी हम electric charge stations डालेंगे everything. Have you maxed out everything else in terms of, like for example, are the poor staying where they have to have least amount of transportation? So EV is the best savior of the car industry and scooter industry, not of solving the transportation. So what is my fundamental problem statement that you are trying to solve? Just that one thing. Is that the problem? That's it.
And what can I do to understand the problem better? Any 2 or 3 things that I can train my mind to understand, to define the problem statement better?
I'm not a solver. The question is, you go to a meeting, I would always go to a meeting with a blank slate. I don't know anything.
But it's very counterintuitive. You have to go to a meeting prepared.
See, there are some knowledge that is already there with you. Okay? I have come here, boss, I'm 100% come here to learn. My ability to first में सब ज्ञान देना शुरू कर देते हैं. You're not letting the other person speak. Right? I first want to understand, you might be completely wrong. Okay? My question is, I'm stupidity by telling, no, aisa mat karo, right? My fundamental thing would be, thought process kahan se aaya? Right? My question is, your thought process was be so brilliant that I learned from that thought process. Tera answer wrong hoga. Tera process would have been fantastic. Boss, today, tera answer wrong hai. Mera answer right hai, I took 20 steps. You took 4 steps. But the last part mein wrong hai. हम लोग, hey boss, wrong, ऐसा कर तू. But I lost the way of learning in 4 steps from you. Right? I was right in my answer. Boss, Harish, right. Wrong hai. But you had a brilliant way of solving it. So we all looked at the end. We are not even asking. Maybe I could actually say that, okay, is there a way you could change the thought process? But I should let you come to the answer. If I'm going to the meeting where I'm like supposed to be a mentor, where I'm learning, I got to ask questions. Okay, boss, this is something that is, and also like something where it will be useful for me somewhere. I'll ask questions related to that. So I'm formulating those Lego pieces in my mind. No, I can use a Lego piece of garbage collection or American Express ने new credit card खोला. I want to know क्यों credit card खोला? इतना credit card तो है. What is so unique of this credit card? Can I use it for something that I do in a daily life? Because they've spent millions of dollars to developing that product, right? Which part of that product can I take it? और ठेला वाली कैसा नीचे जाती है, ऊपर जाती है, which बेचती है, but what can I learn, right? It's all about your open mind, boss. Then you start looking at, once you have that mindset, everywhere you start looking at solutions, not problems.
My dear sir, thanks a ton